Hey, welcome back to the Inspire Hope podcast, where we are planting hope for kingdom growth. There is nothing more inspiring than God being at work in people's life through their stories. Today, for Father's Day, I have the privilege to talk to one of my friends. His name is Elvis. We went to church together when I live in Airdrie, Alberta. I was a youth pastor and I had all his kids in our youth group. And this is one of the reasons why I want to talk to Elvis today is because you will learn more because what he had to offer as a dad, as a parent is amazing. Both of them, him and Allison. But Elvis, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, Sammy, it's good to see you again. I grew up in Prince Edward Island. I met a wonderful girl from Halifax, and we moved across the prairies to Calgary about I want to say 23 years ago. We thought we were only going to move here for a few years, and then we would be moving back to the Maritimes. That was over 20 years ago now. Since then, we have three boys, Isaac, Ben, and Daniel, and they are 21, 18, and 15.
Mm-hmm.
I work as a pilot and love to travel, but I also love home time as well. I love to be engaged with my kids and my family. That's about it.
That is awesome. As I was telling you, one of the reasons that I wanted to do that record that episode with you is because you have so much to offer as a dad and the lessons you learned. Because again, I had your kids with me at youth group, and they were awesome. Okay, they were awesome. I'm not saying that just because I'm
Uh-huh.
talking to you. They were awesome, and still today we're still friends. We still chat. I still chat with them on social media. So Elvis, you parents with your wife Allison. So what are some practical steps that you have taken as a couple to stay on the same page with your parenting methods or goals?
I read once a long time ago something that said the best thing that you can do for your children as a dad is to love their mother.
Hmm.
So that's something that I've sort of tried to do the best I can at, I guess. Another thing, a practical step, is that long ago, my wife and I, Allison and I, both decided that we always wanted to parent in a united way
Mm-hmm.
so that the kids would never divide us or pit us against each other. So
Mm-hmm.
we always talk things over before we need to have, like a big talk with the kids, that sort of thing, or any of the boys. We always want to be united, to work together for their good and for the good of our marriage.
Wow, that is great. I'm already learning already. so so you guys work together, right, as a couple even before you go to talk to the kids. But now they are not really kids anymore, right? You already have a pilot in the family. I can't believe I was just talking to him, the beard and everything. It's just amazing. So my question for you now, how are you adapting to parenting older kids, like adults, and older teen and teen?
Well, some days I'd like to say probably not so good, and some days other better than others, that sort of thing. In my line of work, you work with a checklist. There's a
Mm.
procedure for everything, and I work very well with a checklist. Well, parenting does not have a checklist, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, yeah,
Just when you think you have an idea of what you should do or how to do it,
yeah.
the rules change, and it's different now than when they were little. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Some things that I've learned along the way is that the hardest part is letting go.
Yeah.
So many choices are being made, and they're not the ones that I would choose, right? And so I have to constantly remind myself, you don't get to choose this.
Yeah,
My talks have moved away from, thou shalt not
yeah.
when they were little to, are you sure this is a good idea? Or have you thought this thing through? And sometimes, sort of joking, but sort of seriously, I got to remind them, well, you're 18 now. You can be tried as an adult, so you better
Hmm.
choose wisely.
Wow, wow, wow. It is interesting to, like the transition, like the way you shall not do that. And now, are you sure? You just like you have to change.
You can't tell them you shall not do
Yeah,
that. That's
yeah,
yeah, that's no, they get to choose and I do
yeah, yeah.
not.
There is for me again, I have two girls. It's fun being a dad, being a parent. There are a lot of lessons that I'm learning. But for you, what do you enjoy most about being a father?
Let me see here. What do I enjoy most about being a father? Well, when the boys were little, just seeing something for the first time again through their eyes. You know what that's like,
Mm-hmm.
Sammy. It's just an awesome thing. The first time, I don't know, water slide or first time
Yeah,
anything, it's always an exciting thing. I used to love that. That was amazing.
I remember those days.
As they got older and for me to get involved in whatever it is they like.
Oh,
For example, we homeschooled, and we were part of a homeschool hockey group here in Airdrie. And during that time, Isaac really liked hockey, and trading hockey cards. And anytime the Calgary Flames were playing on TV, well, the TV would be on that night, and we would watch it as a family.
hmm.
And so then later for Ben, like when he was 12, he said, I remember one night he was doing chores around the house, and he said, I'm going to learn how to be a scuba diver. And I said, okay, Ben, if you want to do that, if you want to save your money, I will save my
Yeah.
money, and we will do this together. And now it's a special thing that he and I can do together.
Wow.
So I really enjoyed homeschooling because it allowed us to spend so much time together through the school year. And then whenever we would go on vacation, we actually got to see what we had learned in person when we went on holiday. So these were all different aspects of things that I enjoyed about being a dad. And now the next conclusion as they're getting older is they often teach me. I'm learning how to be a student in whatever they're interested in, whether it's cars or scuba or piano, sea cadets or whatever,
Yeah.
things that they surpass me at. But it's another opportunity for me to be engaged and to be a part of their lives. So
You did a good job when the student now become the teacher,
yeah,
right? Man, that for
yeah,
me as a dad, sometimes I find it frustrating, and sometimes I find it fascinating when I can see myself
yeah,
in my kids. When they do something
yeah,
great, you kind of, yeah, that's me. And when they do something,
yeah,
when they do something horrible, you kind of like, oh, but that's
yeah.
exactly what I
That's me
would
too.
do.
Yes, it's the truth, right?
Yes, yes.
Wow.
I know, as I was their youth pastor. I know Isaac likes flying. Ben,
Mm,
like swimming, and he likes animal under the water. That's their passion, right?
yeah, yeah.
So, and now Ben is a scooter. How do you call it?
He's doing his scuba dive master so that he can
Wow.
show people how to dive essentially and
Yeah.
supervise people as they're diving.
And Isaac, he loves flying, and now he's a pilot.
Yeah.
Okay, so now my question for you: what does success as a parent mean to you? Because now they both basically realize, oh, what they wanted to be, that's what they are now. So what does success mean to you?
Well, I've come to the realization that raising kids is not like making cookies, and if you follow the recipe that they'll all be perfect. Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
I wish.
Yeah, I wish, don't we all? I used to think that success as a parent
Hmm.
would be that my kids are well behaved and that
Hmm.
are liked by others, and there is some good in that. But now I think it'd be wise to add something to the growing list of questions, something like, are they ready to face the world?
Mm.
And with everything that entails,
Yeah,
can they make good choices, especially when they're on their own away from mom and dad?
yeah, yeah,
Are they able to forgive others? And maybe more importantly, can they forgive themselves? Will they seek the path that honors God?
yeah,
And here's a big one. Do they know that they were loved? In other words, was I able to model God's unconditional love to them? Because that's my job, right?
yeah,
So yeah, that list keeps growing, and as I have more free time, and as I get older, I start to think a little more about stuff, I guess, and I sort of wonder, what about this? What about that kind of thing? And so yeah, that list will continue to grow, I think.
yeah, yeah. You know, it is fascinating hearing you saying, you know, that they feel like they are loved,
Mm,
like appreciated. But I didn't hear you say, make sure that you become a pilot. Make sure that you be, like, while you know that's what they want to be, that's who they want to be, right? But that wasn't part of the list,
No, that's not important.
right?
It's funny because so my dad in Prince Edward Island when I was growing up, he always his thing has always been horses and wanted to be a
Mm.
cowboy and John Wayne and all that stuff. And I never really could understand the fascination with horses. And in the same way, I don't think he really ever understood my fascination with airplanes because ever since I was little, I've always wanted to be around. But you know what? There was this respect, I think, for
Mm-hmm.
whatever it was that God had put this passion in my heart for,
Mm.
that was cool with him, that it wasn't the same thing as he was excited about. And so I'm trying to embody that as well, where whatever it is that they're excited about is what we should be pursuing. Generally speaking, as long as it's not illegal or something, but generally speaking, in terms of a field of work or an interest or a
Yeah.
passion, because I feel God has placed that in
Wow.
us, right? So,
Wow.
yeah,
So you want them to love the Lord, to walk with the Lord, and then the rest will come.
yeah, yeah. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So, along with that line, I remember when I first started instructing, I was a flight instructor as my first civilian flying job. And one of my students said something. He said, if you find a job that pays you something you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Hmm.
And I mean, there's something to be said for that. So I didn't have to say, Ben, you really got to learn how to love scuba diving and sea creatures or something like that. Like that will come. And that
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think because it'll probably change over a period of time, maybe what a person likes and doesn't like. So that's not really something that I should be
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
instill in them. Whereas the other stuff is the important stuff, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. So you mentioned your father, right? He
Yeah.
likes horses, and
Yeah.
he couldn't understand why you wouldn't like horses.
No.
He was like, "Why are you into flying? It's not that. I want you to be into horses." And so, what tradition did your father pass on to you that you passed on to your children?
Sure, sure. It's if I can say the word basic or just I don't know normal or average, but for me, just praying before every
Mm.
meal, church on Sunday, honoring God in our home,
Yeah.
just sort of like a foundation or just the non-negotiables, I guess you could say, of life. I think was that sort of thing, and definitely that's become something in our home that is just sort of like
Yeah.
who we are.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, faith was very important for you, to your dad growing up. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Christian home and read the Bible every night with supper and that sort of thing. And
Wow.
so when we moved away, because when we moved to Calgary, we have no family here. It's just Allison and I and the boys. And so we thought, well, we should maybe like do our own traditions as well. So some of the things that we've started doing since the boys were little, every Christmas Eve, I have this list of questions. There's like 3 pages,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of silly, but just sort of like this is my favorite TV show. This is who I like to play with. This is my favorite
Yeah.
food.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I had $100, what would I do? Like just that kind of questions, but it's the same questions every year. And so every year at Christmas Eve, we answer individually the lists of the same questions. Then we reread last year's answers
Answers.
out loud as a family. And so we've done this for like 15 years now. I have all of them. I didn't throw any of them out. We still have them. And so that was a little thing that we started to do. And after a while, I sort of thought, wow, this is kind of lame. The boys are big now. And then I would say, do you want to do the thing? And they're like, oh, yeah, we want to do the letter. And so we do it every year still. So
Still.
little thing, yes. Oh, yeah, every Christmas. We did it last year. We're doing it again this Christmas,
Wow.
every year. And so it's kind of fun because it gives you a snapshot in
Wow.
time of what your values were
Yeah.
in many areas, who I like to hang with, what I like to do with my time, my favorite food, how I would spend my money,
I like that.
etc. It's a great thing, and it's never too
Yeah.
late to implement that, and it's fun. The first few years, I would ask Daniel, and I would
Wow.
write it out for him. But now, obviously, he writes
Yeah.
his own.
Yeah.
But so there's that, and then I got the idea. This idea from somebody else. All these ideas are from other people, but once a month I have a breakfast one-on-one with each boy on a rotating basis. So January, February, March, and it
Mm-hmm.
gives me a chance just to be to take time to actually connect, to catch up. Gives me a chance to listen. Sometimes they even give me an opportunity to speak to into them and hear what's going on. And I think it's easy in a house full of boys to just sort of feel like you're blending in with
Yeah, yeah,
everybody.
yeah, yeah.
But maybe this is an opportunity to feel
Mm-hmm.
special, that it's my month.
Mm.
So we do that. And another tradition we started as well was, and you've been part of this, Sammy, when each boy turned 12, I invited a group of men that I respect over to my house and asked each one of them to write a few words that God had placed on their heart. Words of wisdom or advice for this young man, perhaps a verse. And then we all prayed over him and
Yeah, yeah.
called it a celebration of moving into manhood. And it's a very powerful experience, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
for everybody involved. So those were, and that's grown to other guys who I know who, like one of the guys, John, his wife would do it for his daughters. Not to say you couldn't do it as a dad, but just sort of a thing where his wife would then gather a group of the moms together or other ladies that she knew, and they would do the same thing. So it's morphed. And another guy said, "Oh man, I wish I would have done that, but
Yeah,
my boys are all too big now." And I said, "Well,
yeah,
no, it's never too late." So he's doing it when they turn 18,
yeah.
and so it's morphed into different sort of. Different product, I guess, or a different sort. It looks different, but it's a way that we can just do a special thing one on one for each one of the boys.
Wow. Well, I wanna go back to something you said about
Okay.
going into each month, take one of them and go
Yep.
to maybe for breakfast or something. I know how hard it is because I've been a youth pastor for a long time. I know how hard it is to get a word out of a youth. Okay. And I know that how you doing? Good. How
Yep.
was school?
Yeah.
Good. It's just one word, right? So when you go out with one on one, okay, there is nobody around you. You can start another conversation with. It's
Yep.
one on one. Describe that atmosphere, like how it is. Do they speak to you or do they just give you one word?
Well, it depends, and I try not to make it into like a preaching session or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I let it flow, and I'm just like, okay, what's going on? And sometimes it comes down to like, oh well, how's such and such a friend of yours? How's he doing?
Mm.
Or what's going on with that, or what's going on with cadets, or what's going on with work, and just to get things going. And sometimes it's really just a surface thing of how are things going and what's going on.
Yeah.
Other times maybe we can get really deep,
Yeah.
but I don't ever go in with expectations to say, oh, well, I don't think it was effective if we didn't really talk about something really, really deep. That's not the
Mm-hmm.
idea. Uh, as I'm getting older and as they're getting older, I'm seeing there's less and less of these events that I can connect with them left.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to make it so that I know the value of it for what it is, not for,
Yeah.
well, I really have to talk to him because he screwed something up or he needs to be corrected in something. That's not what this is about. I wanted to make it so that it's an opportunity to speak openly maybe, and sometimes just talk about the weather or plans for the summer or this or that, and other times I'm really concerned about you in this way.
Yeah.
Have you thought about that or whatever? And so everyone is different, and every one of my sons, as you know, they're all everybody's different, and the way you can interact with each one will be different, because one might be a little more keeps to themselves, another one is very outgoing and lots to say, and you just adapt. I mean, that's what being a dad is all about.
That is cool. That is cool. There are people who are fathers who are listening and kind of like, man, this guy has a lot to say. And I do believe that I know when I ask you, would you be interested? You kind of like, I don't know. I like that because people who have a lot to offer sometimes feel like they don't. Until you start talking to them and you have a lot to offer. Like as I told you at the beginning that I'm doing that like for myself basically, because there's a lot I can learn from you as a dad, just seeing how your boys are turning out, to be. And it just, I said there is a lot to learn from Elvis and Allison. So for fathers who are listening, what are two or three of the most important values that you want to pass, or you pass along to your kids, that you would like to encourage them to pass down to their kids?
So, in no particular order here, honesty is always a big one, right? Telling the
Mm,
truth, even when it hurts, and guaranteed it's going to hurt when you have to own up for something that you did or whatever the situation is. But you got to face the music and be a man and live with and own the fact that maybe you didn't do what you were supposed to do. But honesty,
mm,
tied to that closely, is integrity. Who you are, or what you do when you think nobody's looking. That is huge, especially as a teenager.
mm-hmm,
And you're like, I don't have to worry about this. My mom will never know.
mm-hmm,
That speaks volumes about who you are. And that carries on as a man when I'm at work,
mm-hmm.
how I don't know, what I say, what I do on the job when I'm away from
Yeah.
my wife, when I'm away from my family.
Mm,
Am I the same guy that I am to my work companions as I am to the people who know me on Sunday morning? Like,
mm,
integrity is also a very important thing. It's funny, going back to what you said earlier about specifically what my dad taught me and stuff. I never remembered my dad saying, "You got to be honest. You got to be a man of integrity." But he modeled that to me, and I could know that that was a very important thing. Um, Even though, like I said, he would never have to expressly say those things. You must. So, another thing, of course, and these are in no particular order, seek God's guidance in your life, whether that's career, your wife, everything.
yeah.
He can see around the corners and you can't. So, to know what to do, how could we possibly know what to do in our choices in life? But by seeking God's will for our lives, that is the answer. There's been so many times in my life when I made different choices, even some of them long-term choices. Should we stay in Halifax as a young married couple? Should we move out west to where the work is? This or that? What job should I take? That sort of thing. Um, I have never trusted God and done what He said and then regretted it.
Hmm.
I've only regretted it when I didn't want to wait for God's answer anymore and I just ran ahead and did what I wanted. Inevitably, I would regret that. So, seeking God's guidance for my life,
Wow.
whether, like I said, who to marry, what job to take, where to live, where to raise your kids, all of that stuff, His guidance for your life.
You know,
I think those are the three.
as you said, they are not in any particular order. I feel like the two, like I know seeking God is not easy for adults and for youth,
Mm,
for teens. It is not an easy task, but I feel like the two you said earlier, integrity and honesty, they might be the hardest one,
yeah.
even for a dad to be honest. Like, yeah, I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry. Be honest and say it the way it is.
Yeah.
Or integrity, like, you know, who you see is who I am. I'm not hiding anything. Like, I am
Mm,
this guy on Sunday, and I'm this sweet man at church. Everybody wants to be around, and then when I'm at home, I'm this bear that my wife or my kids don't want to be
yes.
around. Right? They see they see basically a Pharisee, somebody who's playing two
No.
roles. Right? They have a mask on. They are so and so at church, and on the streets or at home they are so and so, and at work they are so and so. It is hard to stay consistent. While being consistent is the best, because you don't need to remember what you said to so and so, because you stay consistent, because you're telling the truth, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
what was it hard? Have you ever found a situation where you realize, I have to tell them the truth. I have to be honest, and have you thought of any situation where you find yourself in a situation like this?
Well, certainly, it's always hard after you've done the wrong thing to own up to it and say,
Mm,
actually, I screwed up, or I intentionally tried to make it look like I did the right thing when in fact, clearly I did not.
mm,
So to own that is a very difficult thing. It's also equally hard to apologize or confess to your kids that you did something wrong or the way you acted or whatever it was. It can also be a difficult thing, but it's very important to own up and say, kids, I screwed up. I was wrong. I whatever it was, to own that and to make it right.
mm-hmm,
I think it adds credibility as a leader and as a dad to say, wow, um, my dad is not infallible. He's human and he screws up and makes bad choices occasionally. But the fact that he owned up to it and confessed to me as a son or a child, I respect that.
mm-hmm,
You know, some leaders are very hesitant to admit guilt or admit failure, but it adds a level of humanity to that leader or that
mm-hmm.
person, because if they can say, hey, I screwed up, I'm going to try to do better, and I'm going to work hard on this, it adds a level of integrity, but also a level of it makes it so that the person is human, and it makes it so that the child will, I think, respect the adult, even though the adult may be hesitant to apologize or to say that. So
You know, it's those lessons, they work while they are youth, while they are adults,
yep.
you know, because let your yes stay yes and your no stay no.
Mm,
Like what you do when you're in a room by yourself, okay, you might say, okay, well, that's applied to youth. Not
mhm.
really. What happened when you're at work in
Yeah,
your office,
yeah,
right? You're by yourself in your office. Are you doing what you're supposed to do, even though the boss is watching or not, right?
yeah.
So being honest, being a man of integrity, it just those are awesome values. Elvis, I am so glad that you took the opportunity to and the time to chat with me about that, about what it means being a father, the lessons that you learn and you pass down to your boys. And I'm telling you, your boys are an example. I don't have boys yet. I wish I did, so I can start doing some of the stuff with them. But I'm gonna implement them with my daughters, because it I can do them with my girls as well. So I'm very excited for this opportunity. So I didn't tell you that ahead of time. So I'm gonna ask you some quick question, okay?
Okay.
Just let me know what you think. First of all, what's your favorite food?
Pizza or any sort of pasta.
Okay, okay. What kind of music do you listen to?
Anything that's hard rock or even like a 80s type music, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Do you play any sports?
I do not.
No. What's your pet peeve?
Slow drivers in the fast lane.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. So, Elvis, thank you so much again for being with us today. I don't want to use the word final words because, we'll keep talking. But for this episode, for any father who are listening, what would be your final words to them?
Okay, so I think it's a natural thing as parents to look back and say, oh, I wish I would have done this different, or I wish I wouldn't have done that. And I think we all look back, I wish I would have done it differently. And it's easy to slip into shame and guilt, right?
Hmm.
But the thing is, every day as a parent, we're all just trying to do our best to
Mm-hmm,
try to
mm-hmm,
figure out what we can with what we have.
mm-hmm.
We're even trying to make long-term decisions based on incomplete data.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not forget that none of us have had any formal training in regard to parenting. So the truth is, this is my opinion, I think we all suck at it and we're all just trying to figure it out. right?
True. True.
And maybe, what if that was God's plan to begin with?
Hmm.
That we would see our mistakes, that we would see the gap of what I should be in perfection and what I'm at in reality. And there's a gap there, that I would see my mistakes in order for me to realize that I and we all need to rely on grace.
Wow, that is
If you
powerful.
look back as a parent, and sure, it wasn't perfect, no one is, and you wish you could have done it better, and maybe the fact is that you want to do a good job,
Hmm.
indicates that you are a good parent and you have your heart in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, ask yourself, at the time, while I was in the thick of it, in the daily battle, you know what that's like,
Mm-hmm.
did I do the best that I could with the tools that I had to the best of my knowledge at that time?
Hmm.
Because it's easy to say, to be an armchair quarterback and say, I wish I could go back and do that differently.
Yeah.
But if you did the best you could with the tools you had, the best way that you knew how to at that time, and the answer is yes, I think you can take comfort in that.
Wow.
Okay? So to answer a question of what would I do differently, that sort of thing, as I look back on my children's, I don't know, the upbringing or what I've been doing so far, I think I would let my children fall more, if that makes sense. Instead of trying to instinctively catch them and try to protect them from consequences of their choices and actions.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how I learned, is by falling and skinning my knees and getting back up. And as a parent, moving away from a preventing of a fall
Hmm.
to instead, as they're falling, to be there to pick them up and get back up again.
Yeah.
So don't give up. Don't be discouraged and guilty about things you didn't do good in the past. Um, as long as you try to do the best you can with what you could, live with that and move on.
Wow.
I think those are things to remember.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you, Elvis. Thank you. And thank you for joining us at Inspire Hope. If this podcast has inspired and added value to you, would you mind leaving a review and recommending the podcast to your friends and family? It would mean a lot to us. And I just want to take the minute to say happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And hey, you want to share your story with us? Email us at inspirehopepodcast@gmail.com. And have a great day, everyone. And remember, your story can inspire someone today. Till next time.